Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. I'm James and you're watching Blue Dog Aquatics. Alright, today I told you we'd talk about husbandry. I was going to talk about fire red shrimp, but I'm trying a new, it's a supplement for shrimp and I'll let you know how that goes. I got it from my buddy in California. It does wonders for his tanks as far as breeding and then helping shrimplets to survive and also helping in molting. So stay tuned for that. The reason we're not doing the fire reds today is because part of the process of the supplement is it clouds the tank. And that means that it's working. And once it clouds, then it'll clear, crystal clear back up. So I'm waiting for that crystal clear. One of the tanks that I'm working on right now and getting ready to move into their new tank is Snow White's. Now, I'm just like anybody else. I learned so much about shrimp just by trial and error. And you know, if you want to check out these guys on my website, I'll leave the link up below, or up above and below for you. I do have them on my website at www.bluedogaquatics.org. And then while I'm at it, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe and drop us a comment down below telling us that you liked it, telling us you subscribed, because one of the things I haven't figured out with YouTube is I can't see who subscribed, so I can't interact with those people, and I'd like to know who's following my channel and what I can do better. So on that note, like I said, Snow White shrimp. Oh, I know, that guy's catching your eye. This is, I know, off topic. Behind me, this is actually a big old carpet python. She is in a temporary home right now while I build her a new enclosure. She's about 6 foot in length and about the size of my thigh at her biggest part. Also with her, the people before me that had her, they live fed. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with live feeding because it happens naturally out in the wild. But as far as tameness and attitude, I've noticed that even with my other snakes is I like to feed frozen. It's just better in my case. I can control the variables a lot more, keep mites and all that jazz away from the snake. But anyway, back to Snow White shrimp. Man, sorry, my brain is all over the place and I get kind of sidetracked here and there. But Snow White shrimp are actually one of my favorites. They're a Caridina species. Now, there are two different types of shrimp. You have neocardineals, and scrutinize me if I'm mispronouncing that because I probably am. And then you also have Caridinas. Now, there are different types of Caridinas depending on where they're from. I have zebra bababuis, and that is actually a Caridina bababui. So the one that we're talking about today, the Snow White, is actually a Snow White, and I'm gonna slaughter this, the Cantoneus. And don't worry, we'll make sure to put that in the video so you can correct me if I'm mispronouncing that. Now, with the Caridinas, they're a little bit more strict on their parameters versus neocardineals. Neocaridina. There it goes. And what I mean by that is a neo, I mean, you can literally be bad at having shrimp, and neos are pretty resilient and will still take hold. I mean, starting out when I was younger, my first shrimp tank, I didn't even know what a TDS meter was, or what pH was, or GH. I thought that you just occasionally did a water change and you were good to go. And when I actually learned that from a buddy, I went and tested it, and oh Lord, I think my TDS was like 700, which is unreal, because for the cherry shrimp, which is a neo species, they're supposed to be about 200. So it's definitely a learning curve in everything you do. Now, we're going to incorporate some videos while I'm talking about the Snow White shrimp, and we're going to help you through the husbandry Now, husbandry is the same thing as care. It's just the way to take care of a shrimp, or the way to take care of any certain animal. Every animal out there, whether it's a mammal or aquatic or what have you, all have husbandry cares or care sheets. Now, the Snow White, obviously, it's a type of Taiwan bee, and they originate from Japan. And the crazy thing about Snow Whites is everything that you have, they kind of look like a mixture of a golden bee mixed with white stripes. And we'll show you the videos in there on what I mean on that, because some of them, when they're born, come out as kind of a golden color, and as they hit maturity in their older year, they start showing their white colors. And some are more dominant white than others. It's just a matter of culling out what you want. If you want that more dominant white genetic trait, then you obviously have to pull out the ones that, even at maturity level, don't fully get that bright white. And that's not difficult. I mean, a lot of shrimp, as they get bigger, they'll start getting their definitive colors, and so you'll be able to see which ones you want to keep. I mean, even at little ones, you can see some of the colorations. But like I said, Snow Whites are a little bit different. They don't fully get their white until they're a little bit older. I have one that's about 1.5 years, and she is solid white. You can see it in the video. Now, what I think about as far as care, as far as the Snow White is concerned, is I would say they're kind of intermediate, and that's only because they're a Caridina species. Now, Caridinas, okay, with my Neos, I use, for their substrate, I use pool sand because it's inert. I can control the variables of the parameters a lot better with it. I mean, for granted, you're going to notice their poop and all that jazz and waste food if you're not doing your proper tank cleaning and everything. But with Caridinas, I use fluval substrate, and that's because the pH level in the volcanic substrate is a little bit more stable, between the ranges of about 6.5 and 7.2. And I like that in the aspects of Caridinas, because it's less work for me to use. It's less work for me to do because I can control their parameters a lot better. I also use RO water, so I constantly have to remineralize my my water. Now, there are people out there that use tap water, which is fine. But with tap water, you have chlorine, and so you have to dechlorinate. And for me personally, in my own opinion, and this is just the way I see it and the way I've done it, tap water can change from day to day depending on what the city wants to do. And it may throw off your parameters, or it may throw off the way your tank runs and all that. So I like to control as many things as I can when it comes to my shrimp. Because they are very sensitive, and if you're not careful, they can die very easily. Shock is not a good thing for them. So I use remineralized water so I can precisely control what the parameters are, and that also, leads to better breeding cycles, better molting. I also use almond leaves in there, and I use that for all my shrimp. That's not just Caridinas, I use them for all of them. And then I use a 3-leaf food that I get from a couple of different places. My shrimp seem to really like it. Now, as far as feeding, it depends on, that's a tricky question, because people always ask, how often should I feed my shrimp? Well, that really depends on how many shrimp you have and what size of tank. Now, a good rule of thumb to go by on is never feed more to shrimp than they can consume, and I'd say, I don't know, a 5-minute period. Shrimp will come up, I mean, they're scavengers, so they're not just eating the food that you supply to them. They're eating the algae, or if you have stuff growing on your filter, or your filter is literally collecting everything from the water. So that's why your shrimp like to sit on that filter, is because they're eating all the stuff that gets bound up on it. Now moving on to the filter, I use dual stage sponge filters, and my whole fish room is air driven, so that way all my tanks are, man, I couldn't imagine having 77 or how many tanks I have these days, air pumps. You can get one commercial grade air pump and hard fit it to run PVC. And if you guys want to see me do a video on that, drop a comment down below and let me know. Make sure also to subscribe to our Facebook and our Instagram, so you guys can stay in tuned with what we're doing as far as updates or new incoming orders. We're, like I said, we just branched into the reptiles, so we have a lot of coming soon pictures of animals that we're getting in, and we're also getting in a lot more shrimp and aquatic species, so stay tuned for that. Also, make sure to hit the notification bell. That way, anytime we do drop a new video, we're going to start doing videos 2 times a week. We're going to start doing them Monday and Friday. That way it gives you guys more. We can give you guys more husbandry care videos, and show you, if you're interested, different ways to set up tanks or custom tanks, or even just husbandry on different types of animals, because I know not two people are the same, so you're going to have so many different ways of doing it, but this is just the way we do it. So if you like that, hit that notification bell and make sure to like and subscribe. Now, breeding on snow white shrimp, honestly, it can be intermediate, but it should be easy, because if your water parameters are correct, then your shrimp should breed on their own, and it should feel very natural for them. Like I said, the snow white shrimp is actually from Japan. It's a Taiwan bee, and so they come from Taiwan, Japan, Asia. The snow white in particular comes from Japan, and that's what my research has led me to. If I'm wrong on that, I hope not, because man, I'll tell you what, I did days of research on them. But the snow white, there are so many new species to discover each and every day, and the snow white, for a while there, I actually found that it said that they don't have a point of origin, and then I narrowed it down to Taiwan, Japan, and Asia. So if you actually know where they're from 100%, I'd love to, if you want to send me a link, and I can get that updated and everything. Now, obviously, shrimp are freshwater species, but there are saltwater species too. Man, I can't tell you how many people, they're like, is that saltwater? No. And see, that's the thing I love about freshwater shrimp, is there are so many beautiful colors. Everybody thinks that saltwater is the only type of water that can have beautiful fish. You have the angels and all the beautiful, yes, there are probably more variations of beautiful fish in saltwater, but I love shrimp in the freshwater species because they're little, they're vibrant, and no two shrimp are the same. You can have 2 shrimp born from the same parent, and guess what? They have 2 different color variations, which is awesome. It means that when you breed them, if you decide to breed them, okay, you know, we're going to breed this colorful white one with this colorful white one. They got a little bit, this one's got a little bit of gold, so we're going to see how it turns out. You can breed them, and guess what? You're going to have more variations. But that's also how you get, like I was talking about earlier, that's how you get your strong pure lines, is you breed your top quality, or your S, double S, triple S grade shrimp. You breed them together to get the next line. Now, when you breed those down, not all of the new babies are going to be that next top shelf. you might get one or two that are what you're looking for, but the rest are going to be like, okay, you know, these are like A grades or like low S grades. So we're going to put them over in the tank, and then we'll try breeding a different one for a different pattern. So it's all on your personal preference on what you're looking for as far as breeding. But like I said, as long as you keep your water parameters good, then you should have no problem having lots and lots of generations of shrimp. Now, the tank parameters, I do want to get into those because that is vital. And this is what I keep my shrimp at. I keep my Snow Whites, the TDS or the total waste, I keep that between 100 and 200. I try to keep it more toward the 200 side. Currently, if you see me looking down, I'm actually looking down at my notebook because I can't remember all of the parameters of all my tanks, so I actually have to write them down. The total waste is actually 162, so it's right around where I like to have it, which you can see in the videos. You can actually see a couple buried shrimp. Now, buried means that the shrimp is pregnant or has eggs or is very close to dropping her eggs. Now, like I said, the total waste, that can be solved and resolved by doing water changes. And obviously, shrimp come in nano tanks. They don't come in big tanks like this one behind me. This is a 220 gallon aquarium slash terrarium that's behind me. Bigger tanks allow variance in the water parameters. It takes a lot longer for it to mess up versus a 3-gallon tank or a 5-gallon tank or 10s that I have my shrimp in, where you could have a couple of shrimp die and bam, that waste or the nitrates just spikes, and you can lose colonies very quickly if you're not careful. But so it depends on how much you want to do on your water changes. A rule of thumb for me is I test my water parameters about every week, and depending on what they're at depends on if I do a water change or not. But for sure, I don't do water changes, or I do water changes at least once every 2 weeks. I don't let them go past that. If they're right on the border, like I have one tank downstairs that's sitting at like 108, 109 for a total waste, which is really low for me. And so what I'll do is I'll do a smaller water change, like a 10%, and then I'll remineralize heavier, and so it brings up that TDS back to where it needs to be, as well as the pH and GH. Now, moving on to pH. pH for a Caridina species and a Neo species are completely different. A Caridina species, they're a lot more picky. My Neos I keep between 6 and 8, but with my Caridina species, and more specifically my Snow Whites, I like to keep them between 6 and 7. Currently, my Snow White is actually sitting at about a 6.5, so it's ideal for what I wanted at. pH parameters can get out of hand very easily and very quickly. And if you're using additives to bring down your pH level or raise it, depending on what you're using, make sure to properly read the dosage, because I made that mistake. I had never dealt with a pH level being so out of whack, and it was to the point where I had put pH reducer in, and I had no idea. Like it came with just the bottle, and it says add sparingly. What on earth is sparingly? Is that a drop? Is that a capful? I mean, what is it? So I added a drop, and I'm like, okay, you know, I gave it about a week, and it dropped at like 1 point, but I was like, we need to drop a little bit more. So I put in a little bit more. Well, what I didn't read fully, and I actually found this out on the website, not actually even on the bottle, was that it took it longer to process it. And so in 2 weeks it had dropped at 10, but because I added more, it dropped it even more. Well, then you're playing the bounce back of trying to put now pH plus in to bring it back up where you need to be. So with that being said, just make sure that you read the bottles very carefully when you're adjusting your pH levels. Now, general hardness, or GH, that is called, also known, I call it my little death trap, because general hardness is referring to your water, how hard your water is. Now, obviously, with tap water, you're going to have higher levels because it's a harder water. Or like down here in Nebraska, we have decently hard water. I guarantee you, we don't have soft water, and that's also another reason why I use RO. Now, my general hardness levels, I like to keep between 4 and 6. And that is for both Neocardinas and Caridinas. Now, the Snow Whites, they seem to thrive. I have a lot of females that are buried right now, and I have quite a few generations. When we show you images of the tank, it's going to look very bare, and that's because shortly after this video, that tank was tore down and the shrimp were moved up into an established tank. The pellets that were in the bottom, someone told me, oh, peat gravel or crushed coral or whatever will help out your shrimp in producing that population growth very rapidly, and boy, it did not work. And so what I'm doing is I'm moving it back up to what I know and the way I have all my other tanks. So it's getting the fluvial stratum, volcanic substrate, and then we're putting some driftwood and some pieces of rock, putting lots of hiding spots for the shrimp so that they feel safe, especially the females when they're dropping their eggs. They feel safer in little coves. So, and you can even accomplish this by just taking like 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch PVC, and I've seen people do it. They super glue. It's like a little pyramid, but it's got a whole bunch of little hidey holes, and you can put brush over it, a little piece of driftwood or something like that. So KH, that's another one, but KH has a lot more flux. I don't really worry about it a whole lot, mostly because mine stays really low. Now for Snow Whites, they say, the internet says, that it can be between 0 and 10. Now for me, that is just a broad area. I like to keep mine between 0 and 4. Right now my KH is sitting at 1. So it's a lot easier to test. Now with parameters, if you hate doing the test vials or the test strips and stuff like that, go onto Amazon. They have packs of a TDS meter, a digital meter. I wish I had it in my hand, but I don't. And then they also have a pH meter with a temp sensor in it too. They're relatively cheap. I think I picked them both up for like 15 bucks because they came in a bundle pack. Now KH and GH, you still have to either do drips or test strips, because for the life of me, I don't know why they haven't created and everybody's like, why don't you create it? Well, I'm not that smart to create something like that. But they haven't created a digital tester for GH or KH, so you will still have to do your drips or your test strips. Now lastly, on to temperature. Now before I get on temperature, make sure to drop a comment down below if you'd like this video. I really like talking about shrimp and helping other people out because it helps their shrimp populations grow, and I just love helping out the community with it. So, like I said, make sure to like and subscribe. Check us out on Facebook. Our last clip of the video will actually have all of our links, as well as it'll have our Teespring merchandise link. So go ahead and check that out. We just did a price cut on a bunch of stuff, so enjoy those. Lastly is temperature. Temperature is very key depending on what type of shrimp you have. It helps out population, it helps out breeding. Now, one thing I've learned is if you have a lower temperature, so I used to keep my tanks about 68 degrees, but I was also noticing that they would grow a lot slower. Now, shrimp have a lifespan of about 1 to 2 years, depending. The colder the temperature, the slower they're going to grow, the slower that they're going to reproduce. If you have warmer temperatures, up into the 78, 80 degrees, they're going to reproduce faster, but it's also going to shorten their lifespan. And that's just in my opinion, that's what I've seen. Typically, if I'm getting ready to go to a show like AquaShella Chicago coming up here in a few weeks, I push the temperatures up to about 75 degrees because I don't like going from 68 to 80. And like I said, I slowly bring them up to that over weeks. I don't just go, oh yeah, you were at 68, guess what, you're at 75 now. I don't do that. I slowly integrate them up to the new temperature. That way, like I said, it doesn't shock them. If you shock them, man, you can wipe out a tank, a whole colony, if you shock them. But like I said, ideally for breeding purposes, and if you want them to breed rapidly, I would put your tanks right around 75, 76 degrees. If you're coming up on a show or you're just trying to sell shrimp quickly, you can get up into the 78, 80 degree area, but I wouldn't go anything past that. I had a tank a while back that the heater malfunctioned, and the tank was sitting at like 81, and I was like, man, there are so many babies everywhere in this tank, and like it seemed like just yesterday there were none. Well, because the tank climbs, because of the heater malfunction, the babies dropped, or the parents dropped right away, and so I had a ton of babies, but it also shortened the lifespan of my my females and my adult males. So just be careful with that. Stay tuned to our next upcoming video, and that will be Monday. We're not sure yet what we're going to do. I think we'll do another husbandry video. Let us know what you think. If you want us to do it on, we can do it on our Savannah monitor, kind of jumping on the other side of it, or we can also give you an update on a couple of the other tanks that we did in the past and show you how they're thriving and how they're doing. So, as always, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe. And as always, your tank or mine.